Minecraft 1.18 Caves and Cliffs Part 2 is a weird update. Don't get me wrong, it is a good update, but it's a lot harder to quantify than previous updates. There are new blocks or mobs in this update, and the only new item added is the music disc Other Side, which makes 1.18 the first update since 1.1 to not add any new blocks or mobs. Technically, 1.18 does add the Spore Blossom to regular survival world, but the Spore Blossom itself was already added to the game in the creative menu in 1.17. A similar story also plays out for the rest of 1.18's additions. The other new Lush Cave blocks were all available to get in survival, despite the fact that Lush Caves themselves did not generate until now. Same for the Dripstone and Dripstone Caves, and Powder Snow from mountains. Finally, Deep Slate, the Deep Slate ores, and Tuff were all previously available in blobs at the bottom of the world before their proper area to generate was added. So, while 1.18 in theory should have had tons of new blocks, it didn't because 1.17 preempted it. Now, what about biomes, you may ask? The new biomes are a major highlight of the update. So, how many have been added? Well, the answer to that question isn't what you'd expect. It's -16. Yes, 1.18 does add 8 new biomes. Lush Caves, Dripstone Caves, Meadow, Grove, Snowy Slopes, Frozen Peaks, Jagged Peaks, and Stony Peaks. But it also removes 24 biomes. If you haven't been keeping up with the snapshots, you might be surprised by this. However, there's a good reason why these 24 biomes are gone. What are these biomes? Well, Badlands Plateau, Bamboo Jungle Hills, Birch Forest Hills, Dark Forest Hills, Desert Hills, Desert Lakes, Giant Spruce Taiga Hills, Giant Tree Taiga Hills, Gravelly Mountains Plus, Jungle Hills, Modified Badlands Plateau, Modified Jungle Edge, Modified Wooded Badlands Plateau, Mountain Edge, Mushroom Field Shore, Shattered Savannah Plateau, Snowy Mountains, Snowy Taiga Hills, Snowy Taiga Mountains, Swamp Hills, Taiga Hills, Taiga Mountains, Tall Birch Hills, and Wooded Hills. The Deep Warm Ocean was also removed, but it didn't naturally generate in normal worlds, so I don't count it as being in the same category as the other 24. So, why were these 24 biomes, 26 including the Deep Warm Ocean and Mountain Edge, completely removed from the game? Well, the simple answer to that question is that most of them were no longer needed. You see, prior to Minecraft 1.18, biomes controlled the shape of the terrain. Because of this, most of the mainland biomes were relatively flat, with only a few exceptions. Some of these biomes also had sub-biomes to give them hills, more extreme terrain, plateaus, and more. But then, with 1.18 being developed, developer Henrik Niebuhr decided he didn't like this. Regular terrain shape was too flat and boring compared to the new mountain biomes. So, biomes were completely decoupled from terrain shape. Now, biomes can generate in any terrain, except where there's low terrain, unless it's a water biome, or where there's really high terrain, unless it's a mountain or windswept biome. Okay, well, the second one isn't exactly always true, and it's actually a lot more complicated than that. And there's a whole system that takes into account temperature, humidity, and weirdness, but this video isn't about the biomes that do generate. It's about the ones that were yeeted into the dumpster and no longer generate. Take Birch Forest Hills, for example. Before 1.18, this sub-biome was needed so that birch forests could have hilly terrain. Otherwise, all birch forests will be relatively flat. But, as I mentioned before, terrain no longer needs the permission of biomes to be hilly. So, what could Birch Forest Hills offer in 1.18? Yeah, that's right, absolutely nothing. There's no point for this biome to exist at all in 1.18, which is why it was deleted along with many others. However, some sub-biomes were not just merely retrains of the original biome with different terrain. Take Desert Hills, for example. Okay, yes, it has hills in the name, but that's not the point I'm making now. Besides the difference of added hills, this biome was different in other ways to the original biome. What is this difference? Well, unlike the regular desert biome, Desert Hills couldn't generate desert villages. That's it. That's the only other difference. And Not only that, desert lakes, another removed biome, did the exact same thing, but it also didn't generate desert temples. Despite being called desert lakes, this subbiome only really generated shallow puddles of water, which could already be generated in regular deserts. Yeah, these biomes are complete trash, not just because they would block temples and villages from generating, but also because they still allowed desert wells to generate, the worst structure in the game. So I'm definitely glad these biomes are gone. Other similar biomes included modified jungles, which stopped jungle temples from generating, swamp hills, which stopped witch huts from generating, snowy mountains, which stopped both villages and igloos from generating, and taiga hills and taiga mountains, which both stopped villages and outposts from generating. Out of all 24 removed biomes, only one actually had some advantage over its base biome. But this was only the case for the Bedrock Edition. This biome was the Mushroom Fields Shore. On Bedrock, this biome, unlike Mushroom Fields, could be generated with shipwrecks and buried treasure on it. However, once again, this was only for Bedrock, and with 1.18 out, there won't be any more shipwrecks or buried treasure generating on Mushroom Islands. And yeah, this was the only subbiome with any advantage over its base biome. So, do these changes mean most structures are more common? Not necessarily. First, biomes were completely reshuffled. For instance, deserts and swamps are less common but larger on average, and jungles are more common but smaller on average. The rarity changes of other structure important biomes, such as plains and oceans, is harder to determine. Obviously, this directly impacts the generation of various structures. Also, 1.18 makes villages rare, though they can also generate now in the new Meadows biome, so it's hard to say if they're rare overall or more common. The same is true for most other structures. However, my own preliminary testing seems to show that witch huts and desert temples are less common, while jungle temples, villager outposts, and woodland mansions are more common. Actually, in the case of woodland mansions, they're shockingly more common. Their generation rate is well over triple what it used to be. This video is not meant to be about the precise maths on structure or biome generation though, so let me get on to my last point about microbiomes. Does the new biome system add microbiomes to the game? No. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely microbiomes in 1.18. However, what no one seems to realize is that microbiomes have actually been in the game for a very long time and are not exclusive to 1.18. The removal of subbiomes did not increase the number of microbiomes though. There were even subbiome microbiomes in 1.17 and below. It's currently unclear if microbiomes are more common in 1.18, and if they are, it's either due to the new temperature, humidity, and weirdness biome system, the new mountain biomes sometimes not having enough space to fully generate, or weirdness with how beaches and stony shores now generate. It has nothing to do with the removal of subbiomes. And that's the video. There's a lot more complexity and nuance to this new biome system that I didn't get into in this video, but I don't have time to go into depth with everything. So that's it for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time.